For international applicants to top graduate programs, demonstrating your English language proficiency is an essential requirement for your candidacy. This lesson will explore the different English language tests accepted by top graduate programs. I'm going to particularly focus on Harvard Kennedy School and Harvard Business School's English language proficiency requirements because those are two of the most popular schools that our clients here at the Art of Applying apply to, and very often very successfully. First, let's talk about the IELTS, the International English Language Testing System. The IELTS test measures your ability to communicate in English across all four language skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Only the academic IELTS test is accepted by Harvard Kennedy School and Harvard Business School. Most universities require an IELTS score between 6.0 and 7.0. However, Harvard Kennedy School requires a minimum overall band score of 7, and they encourage you to have a minimum score of 7 on each section to be the most competitive type of applicant. Harvard Business School only specifies a overall IELTS score of 7.5 being the minimum recommended IELTS score. TOEFL is the test of English as a foreign language. TOEFL assesses your ability to use and understand English at the university level and evaluates how well you combine listening, reading, speaking, and writing skills. Both Harvard Business School and Harvard Kennedy School accept the internet-based TOEFL IBT test. However, they do not accept the My Best TOEFL and TOEFL institutional testing program at this time. Harvard Kennedy School requires a minimum score of 100 on the TOEFL IBT, and they recommend a minimum of 25 on each subsection to be the most competitive applicant. Meanwhile, Harvard Business School discourages applicants with a TOEFL score lower than 109 from applying. Next, let's talk about the PTE Academic, the Pearson Test of English. PTE Academic is a computer-based academic English language test. This test is accepted by Harvard Business School and other business schools like Stanford. Harvard Business School discourages people with a PTE lower than 75 from applying, and Stanford requires that you have a 68 overall score on the PTE in order to apply. Next, let's talk about the Cambridge English test. Cambridge English provides several tests, including CAE, C1 Advanced, and C2 Proficiency. The Harvard Kennedy School accepts these tests and requires a minimum score of 185 on level C1 or level C2 Proficiency with a minimum score of 185 on each section to be one of the most competitive applicants. The Cambridge English test is not mentioned on the Harvard Business School nor the Stanford Graduate School of Business website as of summer 2023. Duolingo English test. This test is only mentioned by Harvard Business School. It's not on the Stanford GSB website, and it's not on the Harvard Kennedy School website. So you probably don't want to use the Duolingo English test unless it is accepted by many of your schools. Additional requirements. Both Harvard Kennedy School and Harvard Business School mentioned that if your undergraduate degree was conducted entirely in English, you do not need to submit English proficiency testing regardless of your native language. However, the schools may ask for proof from your university that your entire undergraduate degree was conducted in English. If you transferred from a non-English speaking undergraduate institution to an English speaking undergraduate institution, or if your advanced degrees, such as a master's or doctorate, were from a U.S. institution or an institution where English is the language of instruction, you still need to fulfill the English proficiency testing requirement. Which test should you take if you're applying to both Harvard Kennedy School and Harvard Business School? Choosing the best English language test depends on your comfort with the format and style of the test, the ease of test availability in your area, and your projected performance based on practice tests. However, considering the requirements of both Harvard Kennedy School and Harvard Business School, I would recommend taking either the TOEFL or the IELTS as good options because they are widely accepted. For the TOEFL IBT, both HKS and HBS accept that test. As a reminder, HKS requires a minimum score of 100, and they recommend a minimum of 25 on each subsection, whereas HBS discourages applicants with a TOEFL score lower than 109, and they don't mention anything about the subsections. For the IELTS Academic, both Harvard Business School and Harvard Kennedy School accept this test. HKS requires an overall band score of 7, and they recommend a minimum score of 7 on each section for competitive applicants. In terms of Harvard Business School and the IELTS, they discourage anyone with an overall IELTS score lower than 7.5 from applying. All right, so note that the PTE Academic, Cambridge English, and Duolingo English tests are not mentioned by both schools. Sometimes one is mentioned by one school, one's mentioned by the other, but they're not mentioned by both. If you're already comfortable with one test format over another between TOEFL IBT and IELTS, that could be a deciding factor of which test to take. If you're equally comfortable with both formats, I would say take each test and see which one you do better on. In general, I don't recommend you take the test multiple times trying to achieve a really strong score. Just focus on getting the minimum or above. But this is not like the GMAT or the GRE or the EA where a higher and higher score is making you look really good. It's really about making sure you meet the minimum. It's more about a check box and being able to check that box versus trying to achieve a really high score to improve your candidacy. Let's do a recap of what we learned today. International applicants need to demonstrate English language proficiency through various tests. That could be IELTS, the TOEFL, PTE, Cambridge English, and sometimes even the Duolingo English test. IELTS, for at least Harvard Business School and Harvard Kennedy School, only the academic test is accepted, and we've already covered the minimums there. Both schools accept the TOEFL IBT, but they have different minimums. Remember to check the specific requirements of the institutions and programs you're applying to, as they may have specific rules for those who have completed degrees in English or who have transferred from non-English speaking institutions to English speaking institutions. And starting early in preparation is really key for these exams. So give yourself enough time to study and practice to achieve that minimum or higher score. All right, see you in the next lesson.